Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind, Netflix, season 6. Let's check it out.
I have too. You don't think that I've got my point across every time we're in the pod together about how I feel about you? How I feel about you goes without saying.
Well, yeah, in her face. Yeah, you've expressed maybe in your way, but the circumstances are so different now because, so I don't know why he's getting defensive. He was almost out of the woods, and then he digs himself into a hole, to mix my metaphors, by saying, he's basically emotionally saying, I don't appreciate being yelled at or blamed or something. And I mean, even if it's true that he's being yelled at or something, read the room. She is in a really tough position.
Your feelings for anyone, especially me, never go without saying. Because it does not go without saying. I can't believe you just said that to me. How I think the way I feel about you goes without saying. How am I supposed to know how you feel about me if you don't say it?
Now, what he's saying is, I have repeatedly told you what is in my heart, which is that I really, really like you, and I might want to spend the rest of my life with you. I mean, I don't know if he said it that strongly, but I think it was a pretty clear communication. What she's talking about is, I don't know if you love me, and want to spend the rest of your life with me only. I don't know. But I guess you could also be saying, you came in here and I gave you this gift and it's all me saying things and expressing, and then you're just blank. That would be viable as well.
I want to feel like the prize. I want to feel like you're pursuing me. I think you like the idea of being with someone who's like as intense and as direct as I am, but like I think it would probably be easier for you to be with someone who's a little bit more gentle with you.
Is that true? Is Jessica intense and direct? Maybe she is more than Chelsea, but I wouldn't label her as intense. Those aren't words. I think she's pretty. Is this another cultural difference? That just regular assertiveness or regular human expression is considered to be intense. I don't know. Maybe I missed something.
You.
I've never dated anybody that's direct. Do I think I can handle it?
I've never dated anybody that's direct. Yeah, I wouldn't call Jessica particularly direct. I would say that, yeah, there's some directness to her, but that's not the word I'd say. I'd just say honest or authentic or normal or something. I don't know. When I think of direct, I think of Lydia, I guess, from last season. I mean, I wouldn't say she was like pathologically direct, but the things that were in her head typically she would say, and she would get prickly sometimes. Jessica, she hasn't been prickly. She's very mildly prickly right now. I think it's understandable. But anyway, so then he says, I've never dated someone direct. How old is he? He's 27. You think he would have dated? Are there no direct people in his town? Or does he pick people that are, or is he talking about how he typically dates people that are very standoffish emotionally like him? I don't know what he's saying.
I really think I can, but I'm typically drawn to someone that lets me lead 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Typically drawn to people that let me lead. Okay, so that gives some context to what he's meaning by direct. So is Jimmy saying that he wants a slave? Or a child? Or someone that just does whatever he does and is cool with whatever? Jessica's expression is actually pretty calm and cool right now. She's in a real weird situation. It's Love is Blind. What are you going to do? It's not Jimmy's fault that he's trying to decide between two people. There's nothing wrong with it. But she is, she's upset. Even if you contend that she's being a little unfair, which is very debatable, the unfairness isn't very big, and it's very understandable. You would think that he would say, yeah, I get it. I'm sorry. Just hang in there a little bit longer. I think that's all he would need to say, honestly, as I think about what he could say. But he gets defensive, he shuts down. Anyway, and then he says he is normally 100%. What did he say?
Someone that lets me lead 100% of the time.
Now, either he's saying, I don't want to be with that sort of person anymore because it never worked out. That's why I'm here. You'll hear people say that sometimes. Or is he saying, that's more my preference? I mean, he's definitely saying that, but I don't know if he's saying, I'm suspect of my preference. But lead 100% of the time. Why would you want to be in a spousal partnership with someone that you lead 100% of the time? That's a large burden. One, two, you're with someone that is what? Incompetent, has no agency? Is that what he's talking about? I don't know. Maybe it's just a way of expressing it like, well, how has Jessica led? I guess she is saying she wants to be with him. I don't understand what this directness thing is, because I would not label her as direct or intense or leading. What sort of paradigm is being looked at? I don't understand. Do you know? Maybe they'll explain.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've had in the past, it hasn't worked.
I'm not giving up. I'm not walking away or like going to bed angry.
Okay, so he said, but that didn't usually work out for me. But it almost sounds like he's still wondering if he should go with what he usually prefers. I don't know. And then she's returning to differentiation, and, which is, it'd be normal for her to lose it a little bit. But she's like, okay, I'm not angry at you. Don't take this as if I'm done with you or something. I don't want you to be influenced by that, but this is hard.
It's feeling forced, and that's just not us.
Yeah.
So I think we should leave it alone for right now.
Yeah. Well, wait, maybe is she talking about we should not talk about this anymore, or is she saying I should leave? Because I was thinking that if I were in her shoes, I might consider just saying, hey, it's emotionally, this is a landmine field for me. Until you commit to me, until I know what's going on, I can't get off of that topic. So, or is she saying, let's just change the subject? Let's see.
I'm good with that.
I want you to find the clarity and peace that you need to figure out who you want to spend the rest of your life with. I feel like continuing to talk about it is making me feel like I'm having to talk you into it, and I don't want that.
Yeah, that's good. That's differentiated as well. She can feel that urge, or she can look at that urge and say, that's not what I want to do. So it sounds like she does want to leave the date.
Well, thank you for wrapping that up, because I can't form a sentence to figure out how to tell you how I feel.
Okay, so I can't form a sentence. That's interesting, because that is a potential indication of a particular kind of trauma reactivity, which is, for some people, given the way that they are raised, it actually is physically hard for them to speak in tense, conflictual situations like this one. It's almost like when, it's not this, but it's almost like the experience can be very much like as if you had a stroke and you either temporarily or permanently could not actually speak. You could have all the thoughts and the urge to say something, but you just could not get the words out of your mouth. People who have been traumatized sufficiently, and it was repetitive, and the child resorted to shutting down and not talking, and if they did talk, maybe bad things happened or something. They learn over time neurologically that when you're under stress, it's just safer to not speak, and the body actually will not work correctly, right? And it can look from the outside like the person is basically chill and unemotional and doesn't care. But what's happening on the inside is this like glitch in the machine. It's like, there's this but they don't show it on the outside because that was another adaptation. It's just like, just freeze. We have fight or flight, freeze or appease, and then we have faint. But you have those 5 reactions to terror, right? And you can either fight or flight or freeze or appease or faint. So for people like the way he's presenting, he might have been a freezer. That's interesting that he says. And now that it's starting to calm down a little bit, he's able to speak a little bit more. And, you can see how this would bite in the ass, right? Because you are trying to reach out to somebody and you're trying to connect, but because the person is upset at you, you're just freezing. And then they start to get upset because you're freezing, because you're not giving anything, and it feels rejecting, which gives you more reason to clam up. And it's not voluntary is the thing that I want to say. It's not a voluntary choice. It's sort of like when you'll see, I think I saw this this YouTube video of this woman who is standing in the doorway of an airplane before jumping out. And she has her parachute on her back, and I think an instructor or something. The woman comes up to there's a number of people taking turns jumping out of the door, and one woman comes up and she is about to jump, and then she's like, "Oh, I can't." And then the instructor just forces her out, and she's holding on to the door. I mean, I don't know if this is advisable. I don't know how she felt. Maybe when she got to the landing, she's thanks for pushing me out. I needed that. Or is it actually horrible, because it could be, or criminal even? I don't know. But the point is as she wants to jump out the door. Obviously, the amount of preparation and time and effort to get certified or whatever, and get all that gear on and get in the plane and walk to the door. She wants to do this, but when the time comes, there's a glitch. It's like this instinct kicks in, and you just can't jump out. Well, that's what it's like for people just talking, just uttering any syllables in those situations can just be, if you have this experience and you're willing to share below, you can do so. And of course, if you're commenting, be nice to people about this sort of thing, which I can't imagine anyone not being, but be encouraging, I suppose, which a lot of you are. I have to say, I don't say this lightly, that the YouTube channel has, I think over years now, really developed into a particular kind of culture. I'm sure it exists on other channels on YouTube, but I think it's definitely a minority culture because you look at comment sections in other areas and I don't see the same level of compassion, maturity, care, intelligence. I don't know if I'm being biased, but I have no doubt that, y'all will be kind. Anyway, so maybe he has that issue, and that is something to work on. Just because he has it doesn't mean that he's off the hook. It means that he's temporarily, I guess, off the hook, but he needs to be working on that, going to therapy. And that is something that lends itself pretty well to therapy, because you can literally, and I've worked with clients like this, you can literally in therapy pick something that, like if I was working with him and he wanted to work on this, I would say, okay, so what is something that you and I can fight about? Maybe like a political thing, for example. And I, as a therapist, would have to get a little bit emotional about it. I might have to get a little bit self-disclosing about it. This is a careful thing as a therapist to head into, but I'd be creating some tension there. And I would ask, so are you feeling it? So there's a lot of awareness of body and muscles, literal muscles in your throat, your larynx, your jaw, and your diaphragm. Breathing is very important. And so we would pay a lot of attention to that. And then I would say, okay, when you're ready, say something and try, and we'll time it. Just talk, just free associate, talk for as long as you can. And we'll see if you can talk for longer than last time, which was 15 seconds. So let's see if we can go to 20. So he talks, and then I am very warm, and I say, hey, I disagree with everything you're saying, but that's really great that you did that. And make sure you note right now that you are in no danger. You're in no danger physically. You're in no danger of me rejecting you. I consider this a gift that you're giving me. Thank you for opposing me in that. And to have that safety rinsed and repeated, if you will, then over time, the trauma starts to disentangle itself from your neurons and your muscles and your breathing, and you start to habituate to that stress such that outside of therapy, when you're in a conversation like this, your body actually responds differently.
How to tell you how I feel.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, like, if I even want it anymore by the time you decide what you want to do, that is something I will need.
It feels like a
Yeah, I don't know if it helps her to say that. I think it's normal for her to say that. I think it's perhaps a result of her hurt and being a little prickly, but she's saying, look, if you choose me and I still want to be with you, then you got to change that because that doesn't work, you know? I think that's what she's saying.
You are never gonna put me in this position again to where I'm left wondering how you feel about me.
Trust me, I wish I knew. I wish I had a decision at this point. Everything that I've shared with you, I haven't shared with anyone.
And then she says, you're never going to put me in that. It's not the most constructive thing. I get it. And it's normal for her to think that. If I were a little birdie on her shoulder and she's trying to set this up for success, I would say, yeah, I don't think there's a need to say that. Or there's a different way to say it, I suppose. But I might even say to her, you probably should just put the kibosh on the date because you're being exposed to a constant source of pain. And it's going to be very hard not to react from that pain, which could sabotage the situation for you, you know. I think this is exposing a problem. And it is interesting that they haven't had, maybe a lot of the couples don't get put to this test. Because if everything's all hunky-dory, then you don't get to see what people do under stress. And right now we're seeing a little bit about how she reacts, a little bit how he reacts. So maybe that's helping the both of them make a decision.
I don't have anything else to say. I really don't. And maybe I will talk to you later.
Yeah. And this would be a perfect moment for him to say something. You know, all he has to say is, hey, I'm so sorry I'm putting you through this. You know, if you and if I choose you and you still will have me, I just hope that you can forgive me. I just need a little bit more time. Just say something. And then he says nothing. And one way to interpret that, if you're her, is he is a jerk face. He doesn't love me. He's cold. He's unemotional, whatever. Another way to look at it is he is an utter terror and is just shutting down.
Every time I've talked to her, it's been like really easy to talk to her. And she handled it the way I would have wanted her to handle it. She didn't give me an ultimatum, but she handled it the most mature way she possibly could, which is like...
Okay, that's good. You know, sometimes they'll go back to the lounge and will reveal things that they're not saying. Well, he did, but usually sometimes in the negative. Like, wow, she was completely out of line or something like that. But this is evidence that he has some kind of blockage. He could have said that. I mean, he kind of did, but not that fluidly. You hear him right now. He's just talking. When he's in the pods and there's something of any sort of emotional content, then he just shuts down. He's, what's the metaphor? Clams up or sphincters up, if you will.
I genuinely haven't made up my decision.
You keep going with your heart, man. You keep going with your heart.
Yeah.
It's all gonna fall the way it's supposed to fall.
Yeah. It's confusing, man.
So Kenneth, I think that's great what he said, but I wish someone would help him a little further because he seems a little lost. Like if I were there, I would say, hey, do you want to talk about it or do you just want to think? And if he said that he wanted to talk about it, I'd say, okay, well, tell me about what you feel when you think about being with Jessica. What do you feel when you think about being with Chelsea? What do you like about each of them? What's going on in your heart and your mind? What worries do you have? Is there a way to assuage the worries? Do you want to talk to one of them about something? Is there something to explore? If you imagine yourself 5 years from now married to each person, tell me with each person what you imagine that would look like, how that would feel. How does each person make you feel when you are with them? Just exploratory questions like that. Because I don't trust that he has the ability to explore those kinds of things on his own. He seems to be in a state of confusion. I mean, who knows? Maybe he's processing it in a very elaborate way, but there's a lot of things pointing at the very distinct possibility that he's just confused and frozen and doesn't know what to do, which I suppose would result in pissing off one or both of them, and then life will just make a decision for him. And I guess that would point in the direction, earlier he said, I'm usually the one 100% in the lead. And I wonder if that's his way of saying, when I do date people that have any kind of assertiveness, even a little bit of assertiveness, it ends up causing a lot of conflict, because when people ask me of things, especially emotional things, I mean, this isn't a conscious thing that he's saying, but I clam up, and then they get upset and they leave me, or they make it harder for me to, they start escalating the way that Jessica kind of did. So I need someone to just be like this total doormat because then I have no pressure to actually explore things or get comfortable with my own emotions. All right, well, let's adjourn there. Tune in next time if you want to continue watching with me. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.